Are you a kind person? You probably think you are. I'm yet to meet anybody who doesn't consider themselves a kind person. But everyone has a different way of evaluating what it means to be kind. Let's talk about charity. Imagine you're sitting on a flight, let's say EasyJet, for that corporate business advertisement that I'm going to put in. And at the end of the flight, the steward or stewardess walks past and she says, "We're here collecting money for poor children in Africa." Most people resonate with the cause. They'll put their hands in their pockets and they'll take out 20 cents and drop it in the box. For some people, though, that exempts them of their yearly obligation for charity. Another person has higher standards. That person says, "I'm going to set up a direct debit of €10 a month to the local dog rescue shelter, and with that, I exempt my obligation of charity." And yet a third person doesn't stop until he's built schools, schools, homes, hospitals, charity institutions, soup kitchens for the poor, and so many other things that he does because he wants to fulfill his obligation of charity. So it's very hard to totally measure charity. And what about kindness? Get your kindness thermometer out and consider this. One person walks down the street and sees an old lady crossing the road with her shopping bags full. He says, "I have to help her. It's my duty." He goes to help. But would he help people in another country? Would he help people who aren't standing immediately in front of him suffering? That's already a harder question. And all these questions are difficult to answer because in the end there is no clear yardstick. There's no thermometer which we can use to measure kindness. But one thing is for sure, and the following idea will make that clear. In this week's parsha, the Torah describes all the different birds that are forbidden to eat, 24 different species of birds. And although we're not totally clear about each and every one of them, what it identifies as, one of them is called the chasida. The chasida might be translated as stork, but it's a funny word, chasida. Chasida seems to have a connection to the word chesed, kindness. In other words, says Rashi, quoting the Medrash, this bird is called a kind bird because it does good to other birds around it. And yet this raises a very difficult problem, because many of the commentators have suggested that one of the common denominators that make all these birds inappropriate for eating is that they're all birds of prey. And birds of prey that snatch live creatures out of the air or from the ground have a characteristic of cruelty. And so we don't want to eat animals that have cruel characteristics if we want to become kind and humane people. If that's the case, then the chasida is an exception to the rule, because the chasida, we just said, does kindness with other birds. And yet, surely these birds are birds that are cruel in their nature. The answer, says the Chidush Harim, is profound but simple. He says, in fact, the chasida is kind, but to whom is it kind? It's kind to its young. In other words, when we say it's kind to its young, we're speaking ironically. We're saying it's kind to its young, but to others it has no care for. It will rip the food from other birds to feed its young, and that isn't true kindness. And so, says the Chidush Harim, kindness is a much more general perspective. It's true we can't always be kind for everyone. It's true we're limited in our resources and we're limited in what we can give for the world. And so we could sum it up like this. Everybody deserves your kindness, even if it's not always true that you can give it to everyone.